Hey everyone, today we're interviewing the one and only Paul Aversa, amazing creator of What I Should Have Told You. Hey Paul.
Well, hey, it's great to be here.
Good, well let's get started then. First question. So how does your project use or challenge conventions, and how does it represent social groups or issues?
So when I envision capturing the dramatic genre of the movie, I obviously use a template from previous films. See, if we look at works like 12 Years a Slave, Sully, and Titanic, those producing the films would evidently create an opening scene in which we zero in on a subject, this truly important theme that surrounds the movie and it makes the star of the first few minutes. In Sully, we surround ourselves with the feeling of fear and anxiety during an aircraft accident. In Schindler's List, for example, it's the sincerity and importance of that candle burning, which sets the mood for Jewish society in Europe. In my film, I chose to portray a man who essentially is burdened by the events in his own life, and I try to overwhelm the audience with sympathy and anxiety. I want everyone to know that the man, the main character, would be the subject of the movie. That everything happening would somehow involve him, and that's how I keep myself within the conventions of my dramatic genre. But I had to delete some scenes from being used for the very reason that they were concentrating on a topic that just wasn't the main subject of the movie. But I mean, I'll admit that I also extended myself by making it a little personal. See, what many don't do in the beginning of a drama is usually involve the audience personally with the main objective. We would like you to understand what's going to happen, and we want you to feel the tense, subjective emotions that are going to go through the whole movie. But we definitely do not want to put you as an audience into that person's shoes, or at least that's how I see it. All these movie titles that I've been telling you about, the directors do exactly that, and this is evidently how I extended myself beyond the conventions of an ordinary drama. When I inserted those comical scenes in the opening and made you feel my anguish, I gave the audience a little too much power, and at that point you either feel like you're watching an action or a comedy. And as much as I enjoy those movie categories, this movie simply isn't that. It's definitely a drama. I mean, from the moment that you see the agent, the woman in the movie, telling you about the murder of the Secretary General at the UN, you have to know this is a drama. And by all means, this is also how I think we battled some social issues out there today. As much as I love the United Nations, and as much as I think that their work is important to world peace and how they contribute to global efforts, I think their influence is definitely waning. It's becoming clear lately that there's too much bureaucracy surrounding the UN, and many of the countries and their committees are making just inadequate deals. Like, for example, let's say Japan is your enemy, then I'll put you in the Security Council if you don't partner with this country. But that's not what the UN was created for. It wasn't to secure alliances that work to isolate countries and populations. It literally works to work for the people. It functions as a body of the world, and lately it's just been a body of politicians. So I made a movie where we explore a climax in which people can't take anymore, and they take their anger out on the physical UN body. And the whole ordeal between the main character and the battle with joblessness and poor decision making also involves the position in which many people find themselves today. Homelessness is a really big problem out there, and not enough people care or talk about it. I think it's important that we explore how we can help people and how they got there in the first place and how we can prevent it. Simply put, there's a lot of stuff out there, and a lot of stuff in the movie. It perplexed me because I thought the project was so exciting. Some more of those deleted scenes also involve the main character being a little too happy rather than being depressed, or representing that emotional digression. They kept smiling in all the scenes, which, is what actors do sometimes, but it's not what homelessness is about. So I had to change some of the things going on.
And this brings me up to your next question, which I think you kind of answered already, but regardless, how does your project engage with audiences, and how would it be distributed as a real media text?
Well, I did speak about this because it also has much to do with how I went about choosing the drama genre. What someone in my position doesn't usually want to do is personally involve the audience with the main character. We want you to understand what's going to happen, and we want you to feel the audience's emotions, and definitely don't want to put you in that person's shoes. And I told you that in the previous question, that because that's how I see it. All these movie titles I've been telling you about, the directors do exactly that. I follow that rule. But I also did the opposite. When I inserted those comical scenes into the opening and made you feel the anguish, I gave the audience too much power. And at that point, you either feel like you're watching another genre, and as much as I enjoy those, the movie simply isn't those genres. It's a drama. And I think that the music and the way the movie works also plays with your emotions, and it simply shapes how people view the film, which is what I've been, trying to do here. But to answer your question about distributing real media text, I also think that social media marketing was something that definitely targeted. That's the way of the future, in my opinion. I'd plaster digital posters of the movie onto Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube. The larger my digital footprint, I think the more the younger audience is going to definitely see the film. I'd also market in bigger cities on streets with posters and paper signs, because for the type of film it is, it makes more sense to display the film in the more urban areas and rural areas, because so much of it is filmed in New York as well. So it's targeted to that audience. And after the movie theater revenue ends, I think the film would be displayed on online video services, where I also increase the audience's platform, and I increased revenue.
And how did your production skills develop throughout this project?
Well, to be honest with you, my production skills in general didn't develop as much as I wanted them to throughout the year. But because of the amount of work I had to do and the scenes I had to shoot, I feel like my filming skills have improved dramatically. When you get down to it, it has to do with a few factors. One of them being the angles at which I shoot, the amount of times I shoot, how I act within the scenes being shot, and the duration of the shot scenes. Every time I go out and do a movie now, I'm really conscientious of where I place the camera and how I position myself in relation to the camera. Where the actor walks and talks really matters. And before this project, I wouldn't really ever film at the time extent that I do now. People mess up, and it means you need to redo scenes over and over again in case things happen. I mean, we live, we trip, we laugh, we stumble over our words. It's just mistakes. And I mean, think of just these examples right here.
Huh? Film from here. All right.
On behalf of the Bureau, we would like to congratulate all of the members of...
And then I also make sure that each scene I film is not too long. If they're too long, then it becomes either too hard to film, too costly, and mistakes happen frequently. But aside from filming, I've also learned much from the editing field. In terms of sound quality, when I decide that the characters' voices sounded too muffled or exaggerated in the actual movie, I cut out the sound and just added voiceovers over several different clips. I call it attached audio, which is a more professional name to label it,
Wow, it seems like you learned a lot. And how did you integrate those technologies into this project?
Well, for editing, which is where I would say the majority of the applied technology was used, I utilized my MacBook Air's iMovie program, and included functionalities like inputting voiceovers, cutting clips, adding titles, and changing the speed and volume of certain movie scenes. I used a Canon camera for the filming process, and when it came to updating bloggers about the progress of the movie, I would often post storyboards and updates on WordPress. WordPress is actually an internet platform for brand new websites and bloggers, so it became like the most convenient way to do my job. And then when actually posting the finalized project, YouTube came in handy because of its social media outreach and easy public accessibility. But clearly, I mean, it's the most successful video streaming platform out there. If you remember, when I talked about media distribution, it's all about your digital footprint and social media. And when coming up for the entire idea of the movie, I actually used streaming services like Netflix, YouTube, Dailymotion, Vimeo, even Rotten Tomatoes. They helped me to find these other movies within the dramatic genre and the category of openings, and I applied that to the movie project. It was pretty cool. I didn't even know of the amount of diversity in film culture. Researching through all these websites and doing all this work helped me better understand that even if you produce a drama, it doesn't have to look exactly like a perfectly square-cut project. Every movie is different because every story is different. Every person is different. There's just a template to follow, and I learned and used a lot of fun things from it. And I think that this is a really good place to end because it was such a fun project, and I think I can say that I learned so much from it, and I love answering these questions, and I love doing this awesome video. Thank you so much, and I think we should toast to the video.
Well, thank you, Paul. You heard it here from the one and only Paul Aversa, creator and director of What I Should Have Told You. See it now.